So, Quiz Monday. Quiz Monday. There's only going to be one type of question on there. The whole quiz. 100% of the quiz. Huh? 100% of the quiz. These type of questions, where you got a factor. Some of them you'll be able to solve with a calculator, some of them without. There is one I want to show you. What if I gave you something like sine plus 2 cosecant minus 3? What if I gave you something like this on your quiz? Okay, so we got to first get it all to one trig function, right? So what would you change the cosecant into? 1 over sine. So this sine would stay there. This would become 2 times 1 over sine, or 2 over sine. So far, so good? Now what? Huh? I like it. So now what you're going to do is multiply the whole thing by a sine. So if you multiply and distribute a whole sine through here, you'll end up with sine squared plus what? 2, because the sines would cancel, minus 3 sine. 0 times anything would be 0. Then I would rearrange to that. Make sense? Now you can factor it, or now you can quadratic formula it. So there may be one on the quiz that you'll have to do that little trick where you multiply by sine. Just here. -2 and -1. So when does sine equal 2? It doesn't. So that doesn't give us any answers. When does sine equal 1? 90. And there's your answer. 90 is the one and only answer to this question. So don't get tripped up on the quiz when I give you something that looks like this and you make a substitution and you got this and you kind of get stuck. Well, just multiply everything by sine. Distribute a sine through there. You get the sine squared. The sine cancel there. You just got your 2. 3 sine, rearrange, factor. Easy enough? Hold on. I want to make sure I don't put anything else on there that would screw you up. Where did I put the quizzes? I thought there was one more on there that... Distribute factor. Don't forget something like this. I think I did this one. Is that factor? So what's this going to factor into? What two numbers, sorry, there we go. What two numbers multiply together to get square root of 3? Square root of 3 and 1. What two numbers multiply together to get this square root of 3? Square root of 3 and 1. But if you put the 1 here and the square root of 3 there. What's square root of 3 times square root of 3? 3. And 1, that adds up to 4. Easy enough? So don't get screwed up with those. Because once you have it factored, this should be fairly easy. This one gives you tangent, should give you negative 1 over the square root of 3, which simplifies into negative root 3 over 3. So 30 degrees, 2 and 4, so 150, 330. Yes? This one would give me tangent equals negative root 3, so 60, 2 and 4, so 120, 300. Yes? So don't get screwed up with that. If you take a square root, what do you have to remember? Plus or minus? Because just think, if you take a square root of both sides to solve one, all right, I need all 4 quadrants. That's really all it's ever going to mean. So you need 4 answers. Don't have to worry about quadrants anymore because you need all 4. Just got to figure out the reference angle. Give me the reference angle in all 4 quadrants. I would review your identities just for some substitution sake. You know, what's sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. 1 plus tangent squared equals secant squared. 1 plus cotangent squared equals cosecant squared. No, your reciprocals, like cosecant is 1 over sine, but I think you got those. Okay? Good there? What would you do if I was mean and I gave you something like this? Say I gave you that. What would you substitute though? Because sine squared minus cosine squared, that's nothing. Can you do part of it though? What could you change? So if you change the cosine squared, you just have to be careful. So what I would do is I would leave the minus, change the cosine squared into 1 minus sine squared. Then you got to distribute before you combine like terms. Does that make sense? So you'd end up with minus a negative turns to positive, so you're going to have 2 sine squareds minus 1 plus that sine. Does that make sense? So just be careful if you see something like that. Are we good with those? Julianne, you look really confused right now.
Yeah. How did you get from that to that?
From here to here? Mm-hmm. This would be minus 1.
Okay.
What's minus a negative? Positive. So I got sine squared plus another sine squared. Yeah, you got to distribute the negative before you combine.
Okay.
Make sense? So don't get screwed up on something like that. The rest, I don't think you should have too much of a problem. There is a couple ones that you got to take a square root of. Factoring. There's some that you have to, you can factor. Make sure you know the quadratic formula just in case. But, good? You want me to do one without a calculator that you have to use the inverse to do? All right, fine. That's all I got. No feedback at all.